You won't believe how stunning these DIY home decor ideas look, made using simple jute twine. Get ready to transform your space with budget-friendly rustic charm.
Hi, I'm Loli, and I'm so glad you are here.
For this project, I'll be using one of these glass vases from Dollar Tree and some jute twine. I'm going to start at the bottom by adding a little bit of hot glue to the bottom of the vase. And then I'll be adding the jute cord to it, holding it in place until it dries. And I'm going to continue to do this until I go all the way around the base of the vase. And from there, I'm going to start just wrapping the jute cord very close to the previous revolution, going very carefully, making sure that the jute cord is taut and that everything is being nice and neat. And I did that until I got about a third up of the vase. At this point, I started adding hot glue to every time that I went around with the jute cord, because since it's getting tapered at this point, the jute cord was beginning to separate. And to avoid doing that, just keep adding hot glue until I got to all the way almost halfway up, and then I removed the excess jute cord and added a little bit of hot glue to that portion and make sure that it was stuck down nice and neat. Then I took my lighter and I am cinching all of the jute cord so I have that nice clean look, and at the same time I love that look of the cinching of the jute. Then I took one of these little sauce containers from Dollar Tree and I removed the sticker at the bottom of the vase, and I'm going to add a combination of E6000 and hot glue to these pieces. I added the E6000 to the bottom of the vase, and I'm going to add a bead of hot glue to the rim at the bottom of that small sauce container. And then I'm going to place it at the bottom of the vase. And this is what it's looking like so far. Let me know what you think so far, but I'm not done yet. Next, I took one of these flowers from the Dollar Tree and I glued it to the middle of the jute cord, just using some hot glue. It looked cute to me, but I thought I needed a little something more. So I took some of these small pearls that I got from Dollar Tree and I'm going to add them to the flower. I'm going to take the tiniest amount of hot glue and add it onto the petals, the middle of the burlap petals on each one of this middle flower. And I'm going to add a small pearl to each one. And I did it with each one of the petals. I feel that this gave it the perfect look. Look how cute this looks. And let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this piece? This project is a treasure. I took this container that I got from Dollar Tree. This was body wash, and I'm going to add some jute cord to it. I started adding it without doing anything to the can, but it was not sticking properly. The hot glue came right off. So I took my zip sander and I completely sanded down the entire bottle, and then proceeded to add the jute cord to the bottom, and this time the hot glue stuck and worked just perfectly. And I just did this until I did about 2 resolutions of the jute cord here, and then I started wrapping the jute cord all the way until I got to pretty much 2/3 of the bottle. One tip I will give with this is try to use as little hot glue as possible, because as you use more, then you have to spend time scraping away any places in which the hot glue created any bumps, which will make your jute cord not be, straight butted against the other one, and it will be all messy. So just try to create the cleanest lines when you're doing the hot glue, and then just continue to do that. And when you do these first 2, these are pretty much the foundation of the rest of the project. So just be very careful and take your time with this step. From here, it was smooth sailing. I just began to wrap and wrap and wrap until I got to the very top. Actually, not the very top. I got to about 2/4 up the bottle. I thought this was the perfect spot for my next step. I decided that I wanted to take some of this mineral from Waverly and paint the entire top section. Once it dried, I came back and I'm going to go ahead and do about 2 more revolutions with the jute cord just to cover the edges, but being again very careful, especially in this edge, because you want it to be nice and clean. Then I glued down the final little section, being very careful again not to add too much hot glue. And then once it was positioned nicely, I just cut off the excess, and I'm cutting my jute cord in an angle so it would look nice and seamless. And this is what it's looking like so far. Then I took some of these flowers from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue it to the middle of my jute cord here. Just going to position it right there and press it down. I am adding the hot glue to all the little ridges that it had. And then I decided to take some of this ribbon from Dollar Tree as well. I thought it was the perfect finishing touch for that edge. And I added it to this section right here at the top of the jute cord. And I also added it to the top section of the bottle. Just adding a little bit of hot glue in different sections. Again, being very careful so the hot glue will not seep through the ribbon, and at the same time that it will not seep over the ribbon either. So this will look nice and neat when I'm done with it. And what I did to this middle section, I'm also going to do to the top to cover up the threads. My friend, today's video is part of the Twine It Up challenge that is hosted by Fanny from Creations by Fabi. And I have the honor to be the guest host. Thank you so much, Fanny. The links to the channels and the playlist will be linked in the description box below and also pinned in the comments. Make sure that you head on over to the channels, the playlist, and show everyone some love. Alright, and this little touch finishes this project. You can use it to either put on some flowers. Some pampas grass will look perfect also with this project to give it more of a boho look, or you can leave it as it is. The possibilities with this project are endless. Let me know in the comments section, what do you think about this project? For this project, I'll be using this ring that I got at Dollar Tree. And I'm going to wrap the entire thing using some jute cord. I'm going to make sure that my edge is nice and clean. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue to the back section of what will be the back of this piece. And once it dries, I'm going to continue to wind this around the entire piece until I have it completely covered. And this is how it turned up so far. Then using a lighter, I'm going to go ahead and burn off the fuzzies from the entire piece. It's so therapeutic doing this. Then I took some of this fabric that I got from Dollar Tree. It was a bit wrinkly once I opened it up like this. I just took it off camera and ironed it using my heat press. Then we're going to stretch it out like you see there. And we're going to add a nice amount of hot glue to the back section of the ring and then position it onto the burlap fabric. Once the glue dried, I'm just going to take my scissors and trim off all of the excess burlap fabric from the edges. I am loving that pattern, but we are not done yet. I'm going to take the jute cord because that is the start of the show, right? So I took pieces of jute cord that I did not measure, guys. I'm sorry. I'm very bad with measuring. I know I need to do better. It is a process. I will eventually. Anyway, I will say it's about 10 inches long, and I folded it in half. And if you have not guessed it yet, I am using the jute cord to create some petals. So I'm adding a little bit of hot glue to the edge here, having that piece joined together. And I repeated this process 10 times. Now it's time to arrange my jute cord. I'm going to just go ahead and lay them out in the middle of this piece until I'm happy with the layout. I'm just positioning them in different places, trying to space them out as evenly as possible. And then once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue on the edge that's towards the middle. Repeating this process with all of the petals and burning my fingers in the process. I am trying to keep the middle pretty even as well. So I'm going in small sections, just adding just the smallest amount of hot glue at the edge there, just in case I need to readjust things as I add the rest of the petals. So I'm trying to space them out, as you see there, in the same distance from the middle of this piece. I do going to be adding something to the middle later on. This is why I'm making sure that from the beginning, this step is followed as best as possible, just so you have a better outcome. Now I'm adding a little bit of hot glue in between the two petals in the middle and pinching them to create a a pointy end on each one of the petals. And I'm doing that with all of them. And as I'm doing that, I'm tacking it down and creating an outline using the hot glue and forming it exactly how I would like the petal to look. So if you see there, I am adding it. It kind of looks like a poinsettia, but it's not a poinsettia. I'm going to have you think about which flower you think it is. Leave me in the comment section what flower you thought about when I was doing this. And let's see at the end of the project if you were right. And there's no need for you to see me do all of it. I simply did the same to all of the petals. Ending up with this. Now we're going to put that to the side and take some of this thicker jute coat that I got from Walmart. I'm just going to add some hot glue to one of the sides of it and fold it as small as possible. And I'm going to continue to do this until I create a spiral. I'm going to continue to glue it against itself over and over again, creating a spiral. Being very careful to not have hot glue seep through the sides too much. If you do, try to do it towards what side will be the back of this piece, so it will be a lot easier to add to your project later on. This is what it looked like when I was done. Then I cut my jute cord in an angle and tacked it down to the rest of the spiral. And you think that I'm done? I'm not done yet. I'm going to take some of this maize color from Waverly and we are going to paint the inside of each one of the petals. And this is what I ended up like. I did have a little bit of pieces there that were a little bit lopsided, but that's okay. You know, this is my first try of it. And I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. What do you think this is? A sunflower. I know I should have made the petals a little bit closer together and the spacing a bit better as well. But I'm okay with it for now. Let me know, what do you think about this one? Did you know that it was a sunflower I was doing? You should, because you know it's the favorite flower for me to make in my videos. Anyway, I'm going to take my spiral at jute cord here and glue it in the middle using some hot glue. It kind of looks like a poinsettia, right? Anyway, I took some of this garland from Dollar Tree with these black beads. I'm going to cut the section that will be long enough to become a hanger. I added a knot on each end of it and then glued it to the back of this sign. And this concludes this project. Please let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this project? I love it, even though it's a little lopsided. Not every project we make comes out perfect, and that is quite all right. For me, I do crafting for mental health, so the joy that it brings me is quite enough. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this project? You are going to love this project. I used some pill bottles and some jute cord from Dollar Tree. I added a little bit of hot glue to the bottom of the pill bottle, and then I am starting to round or wind the jute cord all around itself, creating a spiral until I cover the entire bottom of the pill bottle. And once I cover that entire bottom, I'm just going to continue to wrap that jute cord all to the top of that pill bottle. Here at the top is when things get a little tricky. So I am adding hot glue in the inside of all of those grooves. And I'm doing this so I have that like a tapering effect onto the opening of the pill bottle. If I leave the grooves without doing this, my jute cord is going to sink into those holes, and then my bottle will have that shape, and that is not what I'm going for. So I added a hot glue and let it dry, and now I am continuing to wrap the jute cord all the way to the top until you can see no more of that pill bottle. I did not like that you can still see some of the white, so you will see me here add a little bit more hot glue like towards the inside just to finish up that little end there that you can still see some pill bottle. Just be very careful not to add too much hot glue, and then just position it very carefully, like gluing it onto the previous piece of jute cord, and just like do it on top of it, if that makes any sense, but in the inside, but on the side of the jute cord, I should say. Then I trimmed off the excess, added a little bit of hot glue to the inside of the pill bottle, and tucked in that little end. Now that it is completely covered, I'm going to bring my lighter, and you know already I don't like fuzzes. So I'm going to go ahead and take my lighter and burn off all of the fuzzies. Plus, I love that effect that it gives it. It makes it look worn and grungy. Then I took a small piece of jute cord. I'm adding a little bit of hot glue in the bottom here. And I am just adding the hot glue in a circle and positioning that jute cord on top of it until I complete a complete circle, if that makes any sense. Anyway, once I get to my end of my circle, I'm cutting off my excess jute cord and tacking down that little piece. Then I'm taking a little bit of my Folkart Rich Black chalk paint and a small paintbrush, and I am painting the inside of that circle black, being very careful not to add it to the jute cord. Then I took some of these beads that I got from Amazon. I'm removing the paper from the back of it, and I am adding it in 2 sections of this. I added sunflowers, and that is it for this one. Let me know in the comment section what do you think about this project. My friend, as always, thank you so much for watching. Be blessed, be a blessing, and craft responsibly. And if you enjoyed today's content, here is some more videos you are sure to enjoy. Thank you again so much for watching. You're amazing. Bye.